Next month.
Tina, hi.
I can't wait for my vacation, that's so done.
You need it.
20.
Like, where are you going?
We're going to Coast Canada. So I need this action, I'm going to live this thing.
We always do. We don't take them.
I'm not taking it, my husband will take it time, so if it does, because with this, I don't need to be completely.
Yeah, no, we bring a phone, but we don't look at you.
So I didn't see your announcement, I would go the notes.
It was like a week, earlier this week. When did they release it? The print issue is not out yet. It's out in digital. Probably. It's one of the, like pharma executives. It's one of those journals. So every year they do like 100 influencers.
Oh, that's
It's very nice. And it's kind of your friends nominate you, so
That's very
it
nice.
is very nice.
How are you? Doing good?
Yeah, I haven't seen you for a long time.
No, it's been a while, yeah. It's been a while. Something's going.
Yeah, our incubator is taking off.
Oh, that's good.
For emerging companies, we've moved some already to the permanent lab.
Oh, that's,
We're
yeah.
getting sponsors to Match Challenge, so we're getting a lot of inquiries.
Oh, good.
And it's critical, and that's really very preliminary.
Can't come
We're
early, I have
setting
too
up
much
a
to
seed
do.
fund to go along with the
So.
incubator.
Shouldn't.
So companies that fit the profile
Right.
may be able to go with
Yeah.
some national investment. But, that's complicated because we have to find someone to give us money. But there's some interest from foreign investors, very initial.
Right. Yeah, no, I was gonna say, that's actually not a bad idea.
I'm
It's
coming,
just-
so I wanna go.
it's just-
Everybody, and
I
we're
don't
seeing
know.
them every advice, so we can get
Very
You
good.
can get a very, you do so many things like that. So that's, yeah, that's not.
Oh, okay, you're
We're
just
doing
here.
it. No,
But
we're
actually,
working
we
with
should
Best Buy on there.
Yeah,
it's fast.
Well, you're the one I should call.
Yeah, for the adventure makers.
Yeah, so I was just wondering about looking for anybody else and what
The requirements is a good way. I know that there is a list, or a waiting list at this point. Roberta, if you email the email,
And we're organizing.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we do a job.
Maybe look for me too.
Yeah, I don't know, actually, we've met a long
Yeah,
time ago.
hardly.
No, I know.
Sure.
I've done
Sure.
the cat.
Well, we met now.
Well, and I'm Tiffany now.
Very good.
And then I cannot find my special.
What are you pronouncing?
Tiffany.
Sabrina, what a really lovely name.
Okay.
It's gorgeous and it's
Things are going great. We're still growing.
And so
We met with our board, again. It went great. We're going off site in
Answer
about a
their
week.
questions.
Actually, we're neighbors, so
Yeah,
I'm from the
we got a lot of good feedback from them at that meeting. They were very,
yes,
they
yeah.
really, they were very
But,
engaged in
how
purchase
come we
master
missed
and more ideas.
I'm sorry?
So we're going off site.
I don't know, I think it's because I joined the forum meetings like that.
Oh, okay.
So I think they'd ordered all of that.
Everything, your data, their data.
Yeah, I've been told that.
Hopefully, and that day with
I
some,
guess I can only.
Yeah. Yes.
we have one day off site. So
Yeah.
But don't let you leave with them, though. I know that they usually grab them
So that's our
as you walk
plan.
out the door.
Yeah, and then,
Yeah,
so we're excited.
It's like gold dust, isn't
Yeah,
it?
because it's a nice.
I don't know what we're gonna do, but
Yeah.
but we feel empowered. We feel we're in a good place. We're
Well, if they order one for you, they can order one for me next time too.
It is.
Oh, okay, well, maybe, I mean, if you tell me the name, I can look it up.
well, I can't remember that.
The mood is great. We did a.
So it's MIT Venture Forum?
So the email, they all have the same email address.
For customer service, which
It's,
doesn't sound like a big thing, but we do hundreds of emails a day.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
a-
no,
it's a big-
absolutely.
And we kind of had to do it cold turkey, like stop using Gmail and switch to the.
Okay, so I can
It's
just go
crazy.
with personalizing
So
one
they
for.
just send it to me and I
Went
went to
live.
Okay.
And it was good.
Roberta.
Now we can get bigger because we were getting.
Yeah, you just did
Well,
that.
not just not what
And then you worry about
Sherwin Green,
service,
it is
you
the
know, and
director,
then.
but Roberta is
And you
there.
know,
Oh, because
you
now
start to forget
that we
customers.
really
It
moving
technically
in that
fall through the
direction.
cracks, you don't want that to happen.
It was not scalable, probably not scalable.
But I
Right.
think we actually.
Zen jazz.
Because we're trying to
Sort of,
promote,
celebrate.
Yards and Zen, get the Zen going, yeah. Yeah.
share our network.
And how are you taking time off this summer or?
Well, I hope to take a week, a little later in August, so third week in August, we'll see if I get there or not.
Do you go away? I think you sail.
No, well, we used to have a third week Catalina.
I remember that, yeah.
Then we took over my wife's family's place up in Maine, so we have a place
Okay,
up
so
in
here,
Fresno.
here is.
So we'll get up
VMS,
there,
I think
up
it's
there.
Yeah.
Great.
I know,
My kids are home this summer,
Yeah,
so
are
New
they?
Year's Eve.
I know that there is
They're-
a three-year waiting list at this
Yeah.
point, that they get
And we have, we're planning a big trip for next year.
Cool.
Oh, I'm
Any
in
ideas where you're gonna go?
Yeah, exactly. Definitely.
That's great.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll send it to
We've
you.
been talking about,
Are you going to the
probably
network
gonna do it.
meeting?
We're thinking about ours,
Even though I haven't.
but Greece has always been on our list, because my,
Oh, no, you have a special name tag.
I just keep my
my
special
wife,
name.
she spent a lot of time, you know,
Yeah.
and so with, and I've never been there, so she wants to take me over and show me around,
That's
not that she
great.
remembers anything, but still
But
gotta
whatever, you
explore.
can go together.
Exactly, and we'll explore, so, well, that's great,
Yeah, so that's
yeah.
kind of in the works, so we figure it's our 20th anniversary, so we'll splurge on that.
Yeah, no,
You know,
definitely, do that,
so-
gotta do
So
that.
stay close to home.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I find the summer very relaxing.
Yeah.
We had a little dip in distribution, so
Trying to stay out of
quieter.
Yeah.
We got a lot of time.
work together.
Hey, John, how are you?
Are you here for the FAB?
Yeah, we're gonna sit in. Oh. See how things are going. So, good to see you, Joanne.
Good to see
All
you.
right, you got a minute? I got one big question to
Yeah.
ask you. You know, one of the things is we've been sort of looking at the stakeholders we're talking to. I think we have a gap.
Okay, I'll let
The
you
gap
know.
is, we've got BC level and these that we're talking to, there's sort of the high level ones.
Yeah.
Flagship, companies, okay, like Dr. Bob. You love those companies.
You were in our building. Yeah, I have the actually here, so maybe 5 years.
And some of those are struggling. Those are the ones that are really changing. So we have an idea about trying to set up a couple or almost like a, maybe we'll talk to we can bring in entrepreneurs, so mid-tier companies, the ones that are still struggling.
No, people do that, people come into our building and say, oh, Joanne's right there, and then they knock on my
And so what we were just trying to do
One
is,
building,
where,
you know,
what's
where,
the the opportunities?
seven building on the first floor.
Incubators or.
So people, where.
So now I can go through a list and find out that I know, but, just to sort of get a cross section.
So we're at nonprofit advice for the class.
So we'll,
Free stuff.
1 hour brainstorming, almost like focus.
Good, how are you?
With them.
We're Yeah, well, it's, one guy, I guess, Tom Fisher, All right, so he was a manager in Swan, has done a lot of, and so now he's got Bellico Medical, and he's funding with grants, and he's basically saying the BC model is broken. So he actually has an interesting, he has one program funded with a BARDA grant, and then he's trying to raise money, and then the investor will put money in the second program, have an option on the first. And so he's got a pretty interesting background.
You're gonna be here for the purchasing?
I may, I have some work to do.
So what does it do?
Right.
He does.
You're around?
I'm in no rush to get back.
So I think what we're talking about is sort of two levels actually. One is sort of the smaller sort of companies that are sitting by on things like that. So you can argue whether some of them should be funded or they shouldn't be funded. There's always gonna be that case, but there's always gonna be a group of those that sort of go get by on their wits. They're gonna use whatever.
No, we have actually bought this
Two legs, two legs. And they're going.
Chris might have rent some from us.
Chris was so happy. I don't see it so many places.
They've got the idea. going
Now you're ready.
I'll let him finish this meeting.
Yeah, I didn't find it.
I've already raised, and then we'll go around, or they could be, have a, have a early round.
So like, Michael J. Fox does.
So that's the sort of group. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you know, one of
Wanted to know and more.
Okay.
We're just starting, yeah.
Just everything I need to know.
Project.
I couldn't, you can't reach it.
That's right.
I know, absolutely.
You had that one, I couldn't find that. Yeah, so we only, most of our transfers between academic reps from academia. But we do have a collaboration with Lindsay Fox, where we distribute their pieces.
Oh.
Nope, we're just looking for the names.
Oh, I thought they were like all sitting there.
Okay.
Access to facility networking. I'm actually
Great
writing each
story.
other's names.
Okay.
No, don't mention it, hi. I think you've been on the phone before.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I keep thinking, oh, isn't that funny, Kathy calls on the phone.
That's one of the stories.
But I won't say that out loud.
That's okay, you can say it.
So, yeah, number of ways. I mean, you're thinking of
What's in there? Let's get Kim Holt.
say, here it is, divide it up, maybe we get 5 or 6 each one. Twice a year.
Well, I'm thinking if
Or we go out to buy like one of those.
And I do.
Sorry, we get down to the lower.
The other way, why do you?
I think what we should do is, let's just get together on the phone, come up with a list, and then just go out and try to stratify them,
I'm
because
the director of facilities.
increasingly what I see is they have
I agree.
Very keen,
You know, it's
very good, we have 60 bodies in one, one full
But really the problem.
highly productive, it's all
Right. But then you like
exactly, so the team is.
yeah, he's got a new one now, yeah.
Then you're
So
very.
yes, it's
Somebody like
teamy,
that.
but there's only one of you.
It just create a place, you know, those are sort of clear out that leather. He was in that space. He said, he's working at a diagnostic company right now. It's a hollow, yeah. Yeah, small company, you know, so might be. So,
Yes, we did.
Should we get one of those? Yeah.
They just file this one. Yeah, take your safe on.
Right.
Yeah, but that's something over the summer.
Nice coming up.
The guy over I have no idea who he was, but in the end, they did
We're actually going
It was very well, like it's a Tuesday and I'm wishing already that it was Friday. Is that bad?
That's tough.
The first 2 days alone satisfy the entire week.
You didn't get to hump day.
I didn't get home, so no hump today. Yeah, my hump started about 11 o'clock on Monday.
That's bad news. Well, no, the good thing about hump day is that
Well,
once
yeah,
you get
that's
to the
true,
top of it,
actually.
you get to sail down, so I don't know.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
interesting
So
sailing.
yes, I think my hump's probably delayed till Sunday.
It is the problem, you're still going uphill, yeah.
Sunday.
Right, yeah.
They're obviously targeting themselves.
Yeah.
Through there.
Yep. So I think that's the kind of thing. So you just start jotting down a list.
Yeah.
And I will do the same thing. Yeah. Compare notes and just see if we can invite him in to maybe lunch someday or something like that. And just say, let's talk about this little space. And, you know, what were their views?
We were
That's just thinking about the next, you know,
It's now been. You should know,
Very
right?
specific.
Maybe it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
year and a half or something like that. I've been with
That's
them.
like, you can afford to be all that.
Yeah.
It's like-
And,
Before that,
he's
it was-
almost there.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I,
But, you know, I want to do both sides. So I was sure. No, I know, but he's measuring.
All right, I guess we can start. Welcome, everybody, to the next quarterly Forum Advisory Board meeting. Is there anyone on the phones? Anyone on the phones? Not yet. I'd like to turn this over to Sarah for a second to introduce our new faces in the crowd.
Sure, I just wanted to introduce folks to faces you obviously recognize because I see them shaking hands already. Skip Irving, Zach Carey, and Masha Dukmanis from Health Advances. We have officially announced that Health Advances will help MassBio in drafting our 2020 strategic report. You may remember every 5 years or so, we commission a report looking at issues in the industry, cluster analysis, SWOT analysis, and then makes recommendations for how not just MassBio, but industry, government, academia needs to move forward in order to continue the industry on an upward trajectory. So Skip and his team are undertaking that project for us. The idea is the final piece of the report will be released at our annual meeting next year, but we'll be releasing some case studies and white papers along the way based on stakeholder interviews and some of the discussion we'll talk about today in issues of globalization, and so that's why they're here. Skip, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Thank you for the introduction. It's good to see a lot of people here, and we're thrilled to be here. And you know, if any of you have any questions afterwards, we'll be around. Happy to talk with you.
So they'll be listening, and the issue of globalization is one that we anticipate the report and stakeholder interviews will kind of keep bubbling
So
up.
there is the 2015 report, talking about 2020,
The 2015 report we released 4 years ago.
okay?
We're always looking way in the future.
Nice to see it.
So the question is, how accurate was that? We're not quite there yet, but.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was interesting. We were researching that report. So if I think back 4 years, that would have been, we had done the research in 2007, 2008, released it at our annual meeting in spring of 2009. The report did not completely capture the economic situation that changed around that time. So the timing was a little bit tricky, but some of the recommendations actually led to a lot of the innovation services programs we currently have, Mass Connect, Pharma Days. I mean, sort of drove some of the conversation about the kind of programs we need to be offering. So we're looking for the next report to tell us, you know, where 5 years from now, where do we need to be? So, and I can send you all a copy of it. It's a very long, very extensive report, but every 5 years or so, we like to kind of benchmark ourselves.
Thank you for joining us. Great. All right, here's our agenda for today. We're going to look at action items from the last meeting. We'll review our forum progress, both the series forums and standalones, and then discuss forum themes for 2014, globalization for Q1, Q2 at least, and then some other ideas, and then other business, date for the next meeting and agenda items for the next meeting. So action item review from our notes from the last meeting. We have already, the ones that we were to complete are, we already sent out a Dropbox link and invite. I'm sure you've all been on at this point to access documents you put there.
Can I ask Susan, is that read-only at this point?
Yes.
Or we past the problems of people deleting?
Right, yeah,
We
people
should
went in.
be.
Okay,
You
that's
shouldn't
great.
be able to delete.
I haven't tried.
Did you delete anything?
No, I was looking at it. I didn't dare to push delete and just try it.
No, we fixed all of that. We've been sending out marketing packages for each forum, and you all have been doing an extraordinary job of marketing because we didn't get the kinds of responses that we had hoped for. So we've completed that, and thank you for your participation. We have,
You've seen substantial increase in people coming to events, right?
yes.
Oh, you getting it? Okay, sorry. Yep.
I have a full
Great.
slide on that. We have our hashtag and forums, And we've been looking at other host sites, and in fact, we have one on the counter.
Susan, could you try without the microphone?
All right, let's try this.
We're getting more echo than Susan.
Over here. Over here? Yeah, right. All right, I'll just stay put. We have booked a site, actually two off-site. We're having a forum in Worcester, a CRO-CMO forum in Worcester. UMass Med is hosting, and this should be very interesting. I'll pull that up later. You've asked us to share report of domains and databases as well as number of contacts in each domain, and review and research a list of foreign consulates, embassies, and trade groups, and I have those to pull up. Do you want to review those now?
Sure. So one of the things that some folks asked for at the last meeting was just a look at our database and the contacts in it, number of contacts and number of contacts per company, which we did some slicing and dicing. And we'll share these in the Dropbox so you can look more completely, but this came up as part of the conversation around building the network in marketing and how we would seek your help in sort of building our contacts. So let me start with our member contacts. There's three ways we calculated this. We have, in total, 24,669 email addresses in our database. We run about the industry benchmark of probably between 18 and 20% of those being out of date at any given time. So it's 80% of 24,000 that are likely active email addresses. This member contacts looks at by company domain, so AstraZeneca.com, AdanteStaffing.com, how many email addresses we have in the database. And you can see it ranges from just a few to, I think we looked at AbbVie has quite a few. Biogen, it's more in the hundreds of email addresses. And there's better penetration in some companies than others. Again, this is just members. So you can see as we go down, we're starting to look at where the trends are, and as we mentioned, making visits to various locations to get more active contacts. So Biogen, which we've done 2 visits to Biogen offices, Weston and Cambridge, we now have about 460 employees that we can communicate to.
Do you know how many are in R&D at Biogen? What is that percentage of the?
We have to do a lot more deeper dive. This is just sort of broadly by their email address.
No, but I'm thinking what percentage of the Biogen IDEC R&D
Well,
people?
it's not
do
just
you
R&D
track?
though, it'd be the whole company, Mass Bio,
Yeah, our database tracks across, but we have to look at R&D.
Right, but I'm thinking, it's going to be the R&D people that are mostly interested in what's going on here, not so much the administrative staff and whatnot.
I don't know, you look at the HR and the BD.
Yeah, no, that's true. That goes across. Yeah, but I would count BD into the R&D. I was trying to sort of take out the administrative groups, which might not be that many.
So HR for you is.
But HR definitely goes across, not just R&D.
HR is administration, should be
Yeah,
represented.
finance, of course, yeah, so.
Finances. IP as well.
But that number should still be maybe 10% of budget.
Right.
If we sort of start to include more.
20%.
Of the staff here, because I think they're like 5,000-6,000, but of course they got sites all over the place, so.
You can see, some of them, it's a little bit of a blunt tool, but the idea is to start looking at where we could make inroads. Part of the discussion last time we met, some of you had suggestions about particular either companies or academic institutions where we should make a concerted effort to beef up our outreach. And so this can show you sort of where we're currently at. And if you take a look, this is members. The second tab is non-members. So we have a lot of companies in our database that aren't members, but they may have spoken on a panel over the past 10 years, participated in anything we've done. So in many cases, this could be one person at a company that may or may not be in Massachusetts. This is less of an audience for us on a regular basis as our member contacts are for our programs. But we do have contacts in many non-member organizations across the industry. And then the other piece of what I wanted to show you was the number of active portal users. So this means people in member companies who have actually created their own accounts and are actively logging in to either register or sign up for an email or things like that. You have to log into the website to be able to do that. And these are our active portal accounts in each company. Again, a concerted effort on the Mass Bio part to go out to these companies and encourage folks to sign up for accounts and register and attend events. But this will show you sort of where we're at and gives us a starting point. If this group wants to take on marketing and building the network as sort of part of our mantle, we have a starting place, at least in this moment in time. And can start looking at, are there specific companies, specific types of companies that we want to reach out to.
Sarah, what's the difference in the number of active portal users versus member contacts?
There's a fraction of, I'd say there's probably 25% of our member contacts that have active portal accounts. You only technically need a portal account to register, and sometimes even then there's a workaround in that we'll see in a lot of companies, like for example, the CEO won't have an active portal account because if they're coming to something, their assistant's generally calling and we just register them on the back end. We don't force them to kind of go through the process. So
you need an active portal account to receive emails from the working groups?
No.
No? You can sign up for that too?
You can sign up outside of that. We try not to advertise that because it's much easier for us to manage. If you have a portal account, you can subscribe and unsubscribe yourself. You can update your contact information. It's sort of a way for us to encourage people to do all of that. But there are workarounds. If you call us for any reason, there are ways to go around that system.
What do you mean by active? I mean, is it that somebody's logged in within at least the last 3 months or something like that? Or?
Well, it means they've created an account,
Yeah.
which means they had to have done that in the last 2.5 years.
Right. And we get a lot of movements, obviously, in our industry. So it could be that, they may have left. I mean, I suppose if you're sending things to the account, if it bounces back, this person or this email is no longer valid, you'll remove it at that time. So
Yes, although
yeah.
there is a lag on that, I have to say.
Yeah.
If they let us know they've changed companies, then we sort of deactivate them and then they'll have to go through a process of setting up with their new email address. But there can be a lag in that.
Yeah. I'm just wondering how up to date the list is, for 2.5 years and with a lot of change. It could be that some of them have now moved on. So I don't know if you can measure that in any way, activity or more recent activity.
But we can benchmark the last time any individual user moved on. I guess it's a question of what the end goal is, and there isn't really a drawback to having member accounts that aren't particularly active. If we continue to build and we're adding new people on. There's definitely more work we can do on sort of the cleanup side, and where we mostly focus our efforts is in continuing to grow the list. So,
I mean, I guess what you'd like to see is sort of proportional percentage representation at more companies.
Yeah.
Because whenever you get a few people in a company, that that's how you get that culture to be recognizing. So, companies where you don't have anybody, or where large companies that don't have that 10%, that's where you want to push, I think. Yeah.
and even the next step of what we'd like to do is benchmark what is our sort of percentage, right? Our touch point percentage.
It's also the same for academia. The big research center, they have membership and there is no compensation.
Yeah, well, in academia it's even trickier because we allow students.
Right.
So,
Well,
we say that our percentage of penetration there is even smaller because they're
This all started, recall, when few of us were talking about having bumped into folks from either Pfizer or Boston University or something, and they had no clue that they could attend these things because they didn't know they were members.
And I think those numbers seem to reflect that. Just
Yeah.
I mean, if I look at Predica, the 7 there I think is 100% of a Predica. And Boston University, 110, including the students, that's 0.31, so not 0.3, but it's a single-digit percent. And again, Biogen, if it's 10 or 20, it's still a very low percentage. So we are missing out on a number of the big players.
So, sir, that's not sliced and diced to have an understanding of how many are CROs, how many are venture firms, how many, in those, I don't know if
Well,
I
I
missed
mean, it's
that.
by company. We could do it in our sort of membership buckets.
So it's not done that way, it's just, these are the categories you have.
Right, what we talked about last time was just getting a look at how.
Yeah.
company. But we can do that if that's
I
helpful.
mean,
I guess-
I'd love to help out with that. I mean, I think that's much more of a powerful tool. What is the database that drives this?
Good question. Right now, we use a system called Pivotal. It's a proprietary software. We are actually, Lord willing, starting in October, switching to a Microsoft Dynamics database, which the reason that for this discussion that's important is it actually directly links to Outlook, which is what all of our staff uses on a regular basis to maintain contact with our membership. And we'll have a more direct way for staff to update contacts right through an Outlook interface. Right now, it's staff responsibility if they notice a new contact or have a new contact to then go into our database, input all the information, add that person. And everyone's supposed to be doing that. That's our policy. But the new system will make it much easier to capture in an environment we're already doing business. So part of the conversation, and we agree there's a lot of work to be done here, and this is definitely a focus for the communications team ongoing. But as Roger mentioned, as you folks run into people who don't know their members, there are a number of ways that we can capture them. And so we're looking for your feedback in how to do this, both on sort of a systematic basis. Are there processes we should put in place using that data to kind of build up our numbers overall, and on an individual basis, that there are any number of ways we can add people to our list. They can reach out to us, you can forward us their information, they can go to the website, and we can manage that in any way. So we're happy to talk with each of you about either turning in your contacts, or we can send you an email to forward to your contacts, encouraging them to sign up.
Like I think that we discussed it a while ago about whether or not how successful you were to go through the tech transfer of academia and ask them to try to basically push emails into the centers so people will know. People in academia have no clue. And especially now that more and more people are taking their idea and basically trying to set up a small company, and they don't know that they can have a lot of support here and knowledge. So,
We did that to each tech transfer center, starting with the June series events. We sent each tech transfer office a message asking them to forward it onto their networks. A number of them told us they did that. We assume they did that. And we did see some registration from within academia in the June events. What that doesn't allow us to do is eliminate the middleman. So unless we encourage them to have their people sign up on their own, and we just have to continue to try and make a more direct
But
connection.
this is not rocket science, this is just marketing,
It's
and
just
your
on
mailing
and on.
list, yeah, all the time.
In addition to going to the tech transfer offices, it might be useful to find sort of the key newsletters that each university has for posting, seminars, community events, because a lot of those, the students and the faculty go to those and commonly look. So that's where, rather than depending on it, the tech transfer office cascading it out to individuals they know.
We have a short list of other organizations that post either web events or newsletters that we've been going to, but if you continue, if there's any places you read that will allow us to do that, continue to send those along, because it does help.
Maybe we should have a Mass Bio events portal on the members or offer a Mass Bio portal to member websites. Like a lot of companies will have their intranet that will have all the notices and things. If you could have a simple little hyperlink that just goes to Mass Bio events, I think there's the challenge of if people don't know that their company is or their institution is a Mass Bio member, they don't know to call and get their name on the list. If the company maybe doesn't want everybody getting flooded with a bunch of email, then they're not going to tell them.
Well, and we've been on sort of a one-by-one basis doing that with companies. Like, for example, Biogen, I know, has a little paragraph from us on their intranet. We work with their HR team, and they said, this is how we communicate with employees, give us some text. We did that with Millennium, Organogenesis. So we're starting to do that one by one. And that's really the only way to get that up and running, is to find the right person in that company to make that happen. So we are trying to do all that, and I think it'll take us a little while to get to everybody. But in the meantime, as you guys are all talking, any person who says they don't know they're a Mass Bio member, turn them over, and we'll make sure that they get the love, and honestly just allow them to sign up for what they want to receive. I mean, we're not going to all of a sudden sort of bombard them. We'll just give them the place that they can decide what they receive from Mass Bio. So we'll share that with you, and if there are folks in the group that want to maybe meet separately or do a sort of subcommittee effort on building this, I know Chris, you had some ideas, and thinking about how we can sort of systematically continue to work on this, that would be great. And there are 2 action items remaining from us that we hope to get to certainly before your next meeting. We talked about just creating a marketing one-pager that encapsulated everything we've talked about to this point on marketing, so every person involved understood, and we are working on that. And the idea, I think it was Chris that suggested using some audio in some of our marketing materials in promoting upcoming events. We want to test that out as well, and we're hopeful maybe you can help us sometime this fall, maybe for the accounting update or something, start to try and capture some audio tidbits to encourage.
You do that right away.
So do you want to go? Where there. I already went through the next 2 slides.
Okay, so we're going to talk about also a little later our foreign consulates, embassies, and trade groups, and P-Day Bear is here to do that. And for the action items for you all, we've asked you to think about topics for, especially for the theme of globalization, for the next meeting, which is what we're going to discuss later. Again, suggest additional events to attend and organizations to partner with, again, in the hopes of expanding our outreach. And as you brought up, tech transfer obviously is accelerated at Harvard. Svetlana, you had mentioned that you could make some connections.
Yes, and could you let me, who should I make the introduction to Dahlia and the co-chairs, or to you? I can just set up the introduction with the directors of tech.
You know what, how about to me, and then we can take it from there.
Okay, and then the idea is to, that we're interested in inviting some of them to create a forum on licensing and company.
I think we had talked about just being able to get outreach out to their networks as well, you know, to get them sort
Okay,
of.
no, just to get them.
Let them know what we're doing and, yeah, see how they want to invite their folks.
Because we are in contact with a number of tech transfer offices, and they've done outreach, and we've gotten significant attendance at the events with their help.
Yeah, those.
All right, forum progress. First 2 in the
Adventures in Biotech series were June 13th and June 27th. Dreams to Reality, Case Studies and Successes. How many were actually tentatively? Yeah. these are the kinds of numbers we've been looking at. We had 154 total registrants. We actually shut down registration because the capacity of the room is 100. Of those, 82 attended, and 16 of those were non-members. As you may remember, we opened the Adventures in Biotech series to non-members. These are higher numbers than we've ever had before.
Can I ask just one question about that?
Yes.
The non-members that attended paid,
Yes.
and did they all show up?
The ones that paid, you know,
It's a higher rate. I mean,
It's a
not
higher rate?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's definitely a higher rate if people pay.
Non-members.
yeah, they do.
Just curious.
And
Do you know how many? Because both of those, speaking of academia and the tech transfer offices, both of those would have been excellent for whoever is thinking of starting a company from
Well,
academia.
but from academia, some of them could have been members, right?
Yeah, they would have been, but do we know how many? You mentioned that you had some more academics. So do we know how many of those were?
The
from
lists
academia?
are all
The
being
list,
dropped
yeah.
off.
I have a list from both forums of all registrants, listed by company, job title, member status, and industry category and subcategory. So that'll give you an idea of who actually came and who was interested in coming to these. And we surveyed the attendees and the no-shows, and the majority of the no-shows were because something came up or something happened that they had to attend to. Most of the no-shows, you know, they wanted to be here, but something came up. So although it's a pretty high rate of no-show, it's
So
actually,
for a free event, that's a very good turnout.
And this room actually only accommodates 100 people.
Right.
So we were still pulling chairs. We only have 102 chairs for people. So it was a full house regardless. We obviously, over capacity, knowing that there would be a no-show rate. So we took that into account. But the rooms were, for anyone who was here, completely full.
but once the buzz got out after the first one, there were less no-shows, even though there were fewer total registrants. People were walking in, and we also have an account of walk-ins. So this is very, very good result for the first two of our series forums.
And how are the smaller meetings going?
Well,
Next
those are
time, sorry.
We're
just so excited. That's fast enough for me.
I know, it's just wonderful. It's just wonderful. So we're going to talk about the series forums first. We have two resuming in September, September 12th, again on these dreams theme, executing the dream, assembling the dream team to create a company culture of success. The lead working group on this is human resources, and this is all around how do you get the right team to put together the culture you want in your company and drive this towards success. And we have quite an impressive, oops, no, I won't do that. Okay, we have quite an impressive panel. And our moderator is Patrick Marshall, who is also one of the co-chairs of our HR working group. And we haven't even started actively marketing these, and there are also already registrants, people who are just looking at the website, signing up. So we're expecting the same kind of attendance. The next one in the series, Executing the Dream Part 2, is on the prize strategic science tactics and the pursuit of business objectives. Also another terrific panel. Drug discovery is the lead group on this.
Susan,
Again,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but 24th is the date that we talked to our group yesterday.
It's the 26th. That's a typo.
So that date
it's
is
a
wrong?
typo. Oh,
Okay.
It's the 26th.
Phew.
oh, shoot, all right.
When you see the whole calendar, the dates all run together. But that one is the 26th.
No, we let that one slip. All right, no, that's the 26th, that's a Thursday. So again, another terrific panel. Drug Discovery was the lead group on putting this together. And again, even though we're not actively marketing yet, many, many registrants. For the rest of the series, the last two are coming up in October. Selling the Dream, Partners, Payers, and Patients. And Marcom is the lead working group on this. We're meeting soon to nail down the description, get this in the calendar in more detail. They have speakers already. one I know from Mass Health and one from Blue Cross Blue Shield, and that should be a great panel. And then the very last one, Lessons Learned, Nightmares. We haven't finalized a title on that, but basically this is going to be a panel of maybe 4 or 5 speakers who are going to talk about how their original ideas, their plans, went off the rails, how and why, and what would they do differently, and where are they now? This is going to be a really interesting finish to our series in biotech, because we basically covered how do you get started, how do you fund it, how do you create the team, how do you create the science, all the way to, okay, this is what happened when none of that worked, and how you would do it differently. And Roger is putting contact on this, and it's rolling down. Now, the standalone forums, these are not part of the series, but were independent productions from the working groups. July 18th, Drug Repurposing and Reformulation at the Crossroads of IP Clinical and Business Strategies. This was produced by legal and regulatory working groups and the Formulation and Drug Delivery Working Group. And the moderator, the moderator was Constantine Linnet, who is a co-chair of the Legal and Regulatory Group. This is one of the standalones. There's nothing to do with the series. We had 100 registrants and almost 50 attendees. Given that it's the middle of the summer, we've never had those kinds of numbers before for the individual committee meetings as they were in the past. Again, coming up next Thursday, I keep doing this. Entrepreneurs University is the lead working group on this one, equity compensation for today's biotech. The moderator is Mark Cody, one of the co-chairs of that group. And with a week to go, we have more than 60 registrants. Again, in the middle of the summer, this has been terrific. And as you know, you've been getting the media packages to send out to your own networks, as have all the working groups. Thank you. It shows, the numbers are showing. The working group co-chairs have been doing a terrific job. You know, there are lead working groups on any one forum, but all are contributing, and it's just a really collaborative effort. And let's see, this is some of what's in the pipeline. For October 29th, 30th, they haven't come up with an exact date yet. Our Biostats Data Management and Clinical Trials Working Group is going to produce a forum on choosing the right CRO partner. CRO-CMO Working Group is also going to collaborate on that. November 6th is the event that I was talking about that we're going to be doing in Worcester. UMass is hosting that, and that's a conjunction. CRO-CMO Incubator Alliance and the Success of Startups. We're going to present panelists from 3 different geographical areas. North Shore Innoventures will be represented, Creagen and MBI. And we're going to look at startups that launched in incubator space using CROs and how that led them to success.
So Susan, a question. So for some of these events, are there also sort of some targeted, marketing, such say for the CSO to go through the database, of your companies and actually send emails directly to the CSOs at those organizations? I mean, in some cases you may have the connection, in other cases you might have to, look on the website and track it down or add it to the database. Same with some of these other ones, the ones that may be specific to a certain audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, in fact, these are only marketed to who the working groups define as the target audience. We ask each group for each section to have a conversation about the people they want in the room as they're thinking about the program. for a number of reasons. One, for marketing, but also to ensure that when people show up, they're getting what they expect and the program reflects how it's been portrayed and that those things match. So some of them are broader and it goes a little bit farther reach, but we've talked with Drug Discovery and Mills and Bob's that have helped in particularly that CSO, one being a very targeted outreach. So instead of doing outreach exactly the same for each one, we are looking at each one separately and coming up with a plan.
That's great.
They all go on a calendar, they all go the first of the month out to everybody, so there's sort of broad awareness, but as far as email harassment, it goes to a more targeted group.
As a corollary question, the November 6th one, doesn't that sound like the kind of meeting that would probably, that should probably be promoted to non-members as well?
In fact, it is. That will be open to non-members as well.
Especially because it's in Worcester.
Yes.
Yeah, and the folks in Worcester have already started marketing out.
Yeah, the city of Worcester is involved, and there's, you know, a lot of groups that are. We'll be touring the incubator space they have available. Full court press for that one.
It's gonna open up an incubator for
Yep. And that's an evening event, so it'd be easier to get to and from. I guess it's 5 to 7.
That's not easy, that's not easy to get from here.
Yeah, not easier from here.
But if you're already out there, it'd be
If
easier.
you're already out there,
Right?
it's fine. No, you can't go out there at 5 o'clock.
No, it's
You have to
true.
leave at 3.
Yeah.
As long as you're not using.
Well, yeah, that's why we started the tour earlier before, so allowing people to arrive
I think
and.
it's going 4 to 7. Earlier.
A lot of people.
So that's the November 7th, CSO Networking Forum and Panel. Panel will be talking about scientific leadership, its challenges and opportunities. And then there will be a networking. This will be a invitational event for CSOs, again, targeted list of CSOs and C-level science people. And basically to provide a forum for them that you know, other positions like CEOs have forums for, but the CSOs and science executives do not. We already have Steve Gilman and Nick Tourette who've agreed to speak for this, so that should be a great event, and that's going to be here. November 19th, there'll be a BD panel and TED Talk networking event. Novartis has agreed to host that. The BD lead on this will be writing up content on a panel, bring someone in to speak about. You're gonna,
We have a lot to cover, so
Okay.
maybe if people have specific questions, we
Yeah.
can go over it, but I feel like the
Okay.
clock is ticking.
all right, here we go. November 21st, again, managing the CRO-CMO sponsor relationship. CRO-CMO is doing that. And in November, the accounting and auditing update, we hope to nail down soon. Thank you, Chris, for the Herculean effort in herding cats on this. December, Marcom will be presenting something on social media and healthcare. And in January, a JP Morgan download, basically a debrief, and BD Finance and EU are going to collaborate on that. Early January, again, regulatory issues in biomarkers and companion diagnostics. Our legal and regulatory group is going to be doing that in conjunction with MassMedic. And very exciting, challenge and successes in drug development and rare diseases. Their legal and regulatory group is doing this at the State House in conjunction with Rare Disease Day. Another exciting forum option, we had a conference call, member briefing on the Supreme Court decision of the Myriad case. And this was very successful. People emailed in their questions. They signed on to participate. And again, our LNR co-chair, Konstantin Linek, was one of the panelists. It was a great discussion, and we had at one point 54 active listeners. So these are pretty good numbers.
We want to remind you all that we try and do everything way in advance, but we did talk about an option that allows us to react a little more quickly. And in fact, this worked specific to the Supreme Court decision. So there are other situations where we probably want to be able to pull something together really fast. And at least technically, we know we can do it. We were able to get 55 folks on the call with it. I think we sent marketing 5 days in advance of the call. So,
And the decision was the 13th, so this was fast.
yeah, so we ended
This was
up doing
fast.
it in a week.
So do you see doing more of that in 2014?
We think so. I mean, we're trying to figure out the types of events that would warrant something like this. I mean, the Supreme Court decision was kind of obvious, but there may be some other points, either FDA action, even, we talked about if there are significant merger, acquisition type announcements, significance to the Massachusetts audience, being able to pull together some sort of early analysis quickly.
You know, one of the things that you should look into is FDA white papers. Because they're coming, they're being downloaded, and people don't know them. And I look at them recently because I wanted to know some regulation about whatever. And they are some of them are not updated, but some of them are basically coming in, and that's it. So I think that's something to look into. Because they have new regulation for devices, and then they started to speak about companion diagnostic. I think it's not speaking about also regulation, drug development and so forth, but it's something to really follow, because that can be something decent.
Yeah. When you say white paper, do you mean maybe a major new guideline or something like that as well? Yeah.
That's
So
what I mean,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
The trick is always to find someone who understands it enough to explain it to the rest of us in a quick period of time. But absolutely, we'll look and see if we can sort of tap into that as a timely program.
So as a summary of what our working groups have been up to, and how can you all help them continue to do this great work? Be available for their outreach when they need suggestions on their process or content, certainly guidance on their content. Traction with finding speakers. It's great to have a great idea, but to find the right speakers, not all of them are as well connected as you all are. Help them target.
I have a good experience, but I'm not talking about myself, but in general, they're well good. Reaching out to the people here in the room. People are responding. Because you are there almost for every meeting, so can you give us a very general feeling about how this is working?
What the process has been like?
Well, why don't we have a show of hands? Who's been contacted by any working group chairs for any advice?
Yeah, and
So do they feel it's working? I mean, it might
Oh,
be,
yes.
they're happy.
They are, and not just the FAB liaisons. I mean, Kathy is liaison for the biostats, Debbie for the SEF. It's very helpful to have them part of the conversation, not doing the work. The liaison's role, your role is to guide, suggest, and support. But, well, I mean, Debbie was on a call just recently and really helped to get the group to gel. Because as the restructuring happened from scratch, many of the co-chairs are brand new to the process, certainly. And, it takes some time to get a process going.
I'm not clear so I think it's great that something's obviously working. I'm not clear if it's the fact that you had a lot of new chairs, that you reorganized and consolidated committees, that you added a FAB. So I think all those things together have created a better structure, but you may need to at some point figure out where so it may mean that every 2 years you gotta turn your chairs over more often to keep that energy up. And that may be a crucial part of keeping things rolling,
One thing we were just talking about this. Turning everything over and starting from scratch was interesting. It was chaotic.
I don't mean from scratch.
Well, no, I
No,
understand.
yeah.
But no, speaking to that, what we would like to do is get a process of bringing people in
Every year.
Every year. Because there are a couple of them have already said, I really don't have the bandwidth to do that. And that's fine. So then we'll start reaching out to others and bring some in as there's attrition, of course. But again, new blood is certainly part of the equation here, as is all of your support and input, because I've been on all the calls. It's been wonderful, and it's been.
One thing that I might suggest, though, I've had quite a bit of contact with co-chairs from a couple of different groups, and it's been really kind of interesting and fun and I think productive as well. But they didn't call me, I called them. So maybe I'm just scary and not approachable, but I think it might help to instead of having it co-chairs outreach, have FAB outreach or in-reach or whatever you want to call it, kind of make it both ways. If we make a concerted effort to get in there and talk to folks, everybody's doing this for free, so they're happy to get some help and feedback and insights. They're just not thinking about it when they're in the trenches trying to sort out what they're going to do next.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And you've been great in supporting this effort. And I've been trying to facilitate connections as well. And Mills and Bob have been very, very active in facilitating as well.
Of course, you're scary, Roger. But besides that, I think you're right in this point. That I think we need to help them because a number of the co-chairs are new at this. They haven't done this before. They're not quite sure what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to do it. And some of it has done this.
Our goals got better progressively.
Oh yeah, no. But what I'm saying is, I think it's important that we do just what you say there, Roger.
Yeah, your guidance is imperative. Debbie's done a wonderful job. The SEF group is having a little bit of difficulty taking that next step and executing on what their ideas are, and Debbie's been really instrumental in help guiding them. Chris has taken the reins for the accounting. He's been awesome. So, you all have really stepped up, and it's been really an imperative role that you've played in getting these events off the ground.
So once we hit like the first anniversary, that may be a time for the liaisons to start talking to their chairs about succession planning and growing talent. I don't mean to replace you, but I mean, are you growing your talent for 2 years from now? Because that's the kind of thing, if you don't put that bug in people's ears early, you don't have time to get other people involved in running an event. If you've done it once before, it's a lot easier. You don't want to turn the chairs over and have no one experienced there. You want one person to turn over.
And also, this has been part of conversations that, as I've been working with the groups, they've been having. We really feel we're missing some a facilities person in SEF or whatever, and they are thinking about reaching out to if not successors, then at least additional members.
Yeah.
So
my 2 cents to that turnover, which I agree it's important that we do turn over, but I think we should turn over for the right reasons, and I don't think necessarily the time limit is the best reason, since there are a number of people that, well, I should say the number of people that are willing, but very few that at the end of the day are able to do it, given that they, most of us have done other jobs as well. So to be able to identify those which actually can put in the time to do this, keep those, and try and help the others to realize that they can't really do this.
What you want to do is make a culture of turnover so that people aren't embarrassed when they have to step down instead of just not do their job.
Right.
So what you want to do is have it be a normal thing. So when someone stops doing their job, because they can't, because they're busy with their day job, right? Or they've lost interest, or whatever it is. You want to have someone in the wings to say, hey, great job, congratulations, we have an event at the end of the year, we retire working group chairs every year, we have a party for them, or thank you very much, you get a medal, I don't know what it is. And then there's somebody in the wings to step up. But you don't want the whole leadership team to turn over every year. So we're in this funny place now where, next year we want one person per group to turn over so they stay for a couple of years and then they, so I agree with you, you want to be for the right reasons, but it's good to have turnover.
Well, also to Nils' point, there are some people who are just built for this, right? So, it would take 12 people to replace John Hessian, for example. He seems to like doing it too, so.
Yeah.
And that's fine. So what we've been talking about internally is to have at the very least, a check-in with everyone. As I speak to them all along, but then officially at some point, a check-in with everybody to make sure that, are you having fun? Do you continue to want to do this? And are there other people that you can think of that you would like to bring in? So yes, we are thinking about that.
And Susan, going forward, do you think that your FAB will be able to offer some suggestions and give you input on your working groups?
Yes, please. That's essential.
Yeah, I just wrote down maybe at our next either a year-end or early 2014 meeting for this group to talk about, what is the role you want to play in that conversation and thinking about how we execute that.
And what's worked. I mean, all of those of you who have been very involved,
or to whatever degree, what's worked, what might work better, how can we do this better, improve the process. So all of that. All right, themes for 2014 about globalization. This was suggested as a potential theme in our initial brainstorming. We'd like to begin to plan for at least Q1, Q2 of 2014 forums. What does this mean? What are other major themes to consider as well? Now, Pete, did you want to talk about Global Gateway?
Sure.
And introduce yourself, because
Yes,
folks here might not know.
I'm Pete Adram, Director of Economic Development and Global Affairs here at MassBio. I'd be happy to talk a little bit about the relationships we have with various foreign agencies, and this is a list, and I'll talk about these, probably get back to these a little bit. We have a number of relationships. Yeah, actually, if you go down a couple. Yeah, that's great. So we have 17, I think, foreign agency members of MassBio. A lot of people don't realize that we have these relationships, and the foreign agencies join for different reasons. Often they have, I think the primary reason they join is why other members join MassBio is for access to our programming and various services. And those foreign agencies that are especially active, we see often at our, in the past, our committee meetings, but currently our forum meetings and our signature events. And so that's sort of the primary reason. They want the connectivity with the life sciences sector here. In addition, they also join around specific missions that they have. And sometimes it's just facilitating, helping delegations sort of navigate through on their U.S. tours and connecting with the cluster here and so forth. So these are our current members. Those that are sort of over on the some of these members have a presence here in Massachusetts with personnel, organizations like Canada and UK Trade and Invest, Innovation Norway, BioWin. They all have representatives here on the ground. Others are a little more remote. Jetro, for example, they have their offices in New York, and others are based out of Washington. Though, as you can imagine, those that are most active have people here on the ground. So that's a little bit, we've always had foreign agency members here at MassBio going back as far as we can remember. Today we have more than we ever have had in the past. And we do, for some of these companies, some specific events. And actually, if you back up one, these are some of the events that we've done in the past working with foreign agency members. And the events that work best for the foreign agencies and work best for us are when they are as specific as possible on content. What foreign agencies often want to do when they visit is, we want to have a partnering event. We want to set up 50 business-to-business meetings, and that's not our business. It's not what we do. We have BioPharm America, which is our partnering event, and so we steer them towards that event. But these events, where they're most successful, it's when the program is very finite, and the nanomedicine event, for example, was mostly us presenting to the delegation about what's going on in nanomedicine here in the Massachusetts cluster, and it was a very well-received event by their delegation. And other events are more about these organizations, these delegations presenting about what's going on in their clusters. So that's a little bit about past events, and these events have, for the most part, been wide open to members to attend. And we have a couple upcoming. One is actually, it's Lithuania Day at MassBio, and this is sort of a not to go into a great deal of detail, it's an event where we're providing their delegation an overview of what's going on here. They this is a delegation who wants to connect with the Massachusetts life sciences sector. In the second part of the day, so we have sort of we have a panel featuring a panel about how to pitch in the U.S. versus how to pitch in Europe. Two different approaches there, and they're going to be attending the Biopharma America conference the next 3 days, so they think that's going to be a good, important information for them. And then the second part of the day is more Lithuania talking about opportunities to enter Europe via Lithuania and different regulatory pathways and so forth that they can explain to a Massachusetts audience. And we're working with Portugal as well on an event right after Biopharma America. So that's a little bit about the activity we have on the global side. As I noted, foreign agency members have long been members. Their primary consideration is the benefits that all members receive and the connectivity that they're looking for. Those, as with our broader membership as well, those foreign agency members that are especially active, that take advantage of our programs, are the ones that stick with us longest. And we have a cadre of these agencies that have been with us for as long as I can remember. So as we consider sort of the globalization theme in 2014, I think working with the foreign agencies does present an opportunity for us to consider in engaging them and looking to them for perhaps some expertise as we consider issues in globalization, as broad a term as that is, and ill-defined as it is right now for this group. And I would just suggest that these foreign organizations we should, as a group, look to them as a resource potentially to help us with the programming. So
do you imagine that this program would be to attract the ones that are not yet members as well? Like, do you have a list of who you're missing? Like, I didn't see Swissnex on there, I didn't see, Asia, like none of the, so I mean.
You go back to the list.
Do you imagine that this would be like a way to say, hey, everybody else is on, we're doing this thing, if you want to be in, you gotta.
So we've never really sought out foreign agency members. They've sort of arrived at our doorsteps, and that's fine. And it could certainly be. I think what's important is what's important to our membership. And if expanding these relationships to different clusters is important, then we certainly want to pursue that. And that's where, again, this group and the working groups could really be a benefit to us in helping point the way.
All right. Let's talk about topics. This, as you may remember, is our hot topics list that came up from our wonderful initial brainstorming. Highlighted the things that came up under globalization. These were the top themes that you all had come up with early last year when we first met. And in green, oh, it looks like the pink didn't come out. Right. In green, these are topics that we've already covered or are being covered in our series forums. Difficult to see. Again, these are what's in the pipeline, collaboration with academic institutions. Can everybody read this? No, okay.
It's not that important.
It's not important. Well, again, we've done some.
I want to highlight, this all came from someplace, if you remember back. This was an initial conversation we had.
And that great brainstorming session with the docs. Thank you, Joanne. That was genius.
And if you go to the next one, globalization should be bigger.
Okay.
Oh, that's better.
This is what's come up. This is what we have from that hot topic list. So let's think a little bit about where we want to go from here. This is what, from that one brainstorming, the initial brainstorming, came up as important. Where would we like to take this? What does it look like?
I think that we can start with the choosing the global partner as a starting point. Choosing the global partner as a starting point.
Choosing global partners.
Choosing global partners is something we still should
I think
address.
that, you know,
So this one, choosing correct global partner.
But at the same time, I think we also have to somehow introduce this topic and how it will affect all of our communities. Because there are some of us who don't have any global interactions, and so why are they gonna come to these meetings? So I think we need to get one of the working groups, to do something about why this is important now and in the future. I mean, my little group that, ships things overseas, so that's really important to them, international shipping. And then we have, subsidiaries in other countries.
And distributor relationships.
And distributor relationships. So I think we have to start by introducing it and then get a little more focused for the other groups.
So want to start with something on market size. Yeah, where the markets are going, right?
yeah, that was the next.
But even assessing the risks and benefits of embracing a global partner. Because if you can do everything in your back, there are a lot of headaches that come into it. It's actually the efficiencies and inefficiencies.
But do you have a choice not to be global?
I think you do.
Yeah.
I think you do. If you're starting a company, if you can walk across the street and get everything done, then why go global?
But if you want to do clinical study, you should go outside.
But why?
Well, that's what some people would disagree with that.
Well, there's a couple.
I mean, so I'm just saying, those are the kind of questions for a broad base.
So it's a series.
Yes, if you will.
Yeah, I guess.
Again, so let me just interject. The Adventures in Biotech series was so successful because it took a topic, drug development discovery on limited resources and in tough times, and it expanded that into a broad-based series. We're thinking about the same thing for the globalization topic, introducing it as why is this important, and coming up again with a series. And if it looks like that this is something that we could do 2 a month for the first part of 2014, then that will be it. And then the working groups can take either deeper dives into these particular topics or have their own independent standalones. But again, non-members will be welcome, and these will be broader-based forums.
So we're thinking 2 themes for next year, so this will get us through the first half of the year, and then another theme. Yeah.
There's a couple of really big, very distinct kind of, how to describe it, just different constituencies that when you think about global, right? I mean, there's the big and the moderately big companies that already have global strategies in place, and they've got facilities all over the planet, and they're outsourcing this, that, or the other, or they're establishing boots on the ground, they're certainly marketing everywhere. Then there's the smaller companies that may or may not even know that there's anything for them other than maybe outsourcing to China, which I try not to encourage.
So like when to go global?
Yeah, when and why, I could, like, what offer, it could be with that second constituency, it could be a bit of an exploration through forums where you get an idea of, I'm doing a startup, is there something for me in another country?
I mean, there's so many layers to that.
Probably is, but you have to figure out what that is and how to do it.
Yeah.
And speaking
You
about the
said 3
audience,
constituencies, sorry, was there a third?
No,
Two.
I just
Okay,
said
2.
because speaking about the audience, big pharma, and they don't need this. They're
Yeah,
there.
no.
They're all over. I think really the audience will be biotechs that are looking for for different components of their business, whether it's good or bad, to go global.
Yeah, and I wasn't suggesting that we try to split and do both. And basically, Novartis and Pfizer and others are not going to come to sit down in a forum at MassBio to get instruction on how to go global.
They could.
They might be on the panel.
They might come to share
Oh,
experiences.
Right.
absolutely. That's a completely
About
different thing.
challenges,
Yeah. But and of course, there's so many layers to this onion. If you look at something like device companies, they might want to go to Europe because it's so much simpler, quicker, less costly to get a CE mark than PMA.
bearing in mind, of course, that you have to pick and choose what big pharma folks come in to give a presentation on how to do things, right? A startup isn't gonna go build a $200 million facility to establish
China.
a footprint someplace.
But, and speaking of China, looking at what's the China, why did we pick up China? I mean,
that's
there's
a
number
very
one.
good point. I mean, it's almost a continuation to what you say, because while all those big companies has amazing resources in China.
Yeah, but I mean, I can see from a big company's perspective, China, because at this point they seem to understand what IP protection is all about, which some other countries, I shouldn't name them, seem to be backing away from. So I can see that's a big market which you can probably protect going forward. But I think that, to me, that last, or second to last bullet seemed to be more in terms of outsourcing.
Yes.
So, I mean, there are a number of places you can outsource.
And that's the big pharma perspective, because all things considered, there's not a lot of advantages to try to get things done 17 time zones away if you're a small company.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially when there's somebody down the street who can do exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, we have to add India in addition to China.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, I would go by why pick two countries? I mean, should we have to pick two? Of course, at the end of the day, I think if you have an honest debate, China is there will be an advantage to going to China compared to a number of
I
other
think
places.
globalizing is for different reasons. You're talking about globalization for the purpose of maybe cost cutting or localization of workforce. Like, I remember the recent article I saw about, moving to certain countries for tax benefits and things like that,
Ireland.
opposed to globalization for the purposes of finding new markets.
Yeah.
I think that there's different goals for globalization.
I would like to submit that we try to focus the efforts of this series less on sending dollars and jobs someplace else, and more on looking or exploring new opportunities that could be mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
I agree with Roger, and I think that an important thing to uncover in this is what are the opportunities overseas and what are the threats. If you talk to anybody in big pharma, they basically are saying Massachusetts is not competing against California, you're competing against China and India. And so you have China, India, you have South Korea, which wants to be a player. All of those countries have big pharma initiatives. They have their own 2020 reports. And it would be interesting to do an overview of every country that's making a play in the space. So, because before you go global, you better understand what they're trying to do. Because there are great opportunities in some of those places, but there's also great threats.
That could be a pretty good introductory forum.
And by October, we will have the first deliverable from the 2020 report is a cluster analysis looking at opportunities and threats in competing markets. Some domestic, but a number of foreign markets as well. So we actually will have new data, Massachusetts sort of specific data from the Health Advances team to kind of set that foundation.
So maybe that can be the overall theme, globalization opportunities and threats, and we can follow specific seminars. For instance, for emerging biotech companies, there may seem to be more threats if you're sending the core technologies overseas where IP protection or other things are not defined. Maybe for larger companies, there's more opportunity because they can sell directly to that market.
Yeah.
So that can just define all the others.
There's financial threats in addition to IP threats.
And also like Dubai and some of those countries. Susan, was it you who forwarded the email from Angelos? And
Yes.
yeah, that he had a contact in another company that was contacted by the UAE who wanted to invest in the company. And so you have a lot of foreign money in sovereign wealth funds, Russia, China, but what do they want for that money? It seems very enticing. You can't get a lot of money around here. They have it, but that's both an opportunity and an issue.
But again, I think a lot of companies don't even know how to go out and tap
Right.
into those. So I
Right.
think you get a broad interest in, how do you navigate raising money from
Yeah.
other parts of the world? How do you navigate clinical studies, or how do you navigate, regulatory? I think
Yeah.
it could IP, yeah. I
IP.
think you'd get a lot of interest in people wanting to learn from others.
Because right now, there's one investment from the UAE in Massachusetts, but it was done in like 2006.
Mhm.
And they haven't been since, but they're sniffing around.
And I think it's all about collaborating on science, worldwide, which, the whole Rolodex of science that's out there. Israel, in particular, I think certainly.
Well, sure, I think part of Peter's slide with all the different international agencies, and a lot of these countries have, really a hardcore biotech centers and major incubation centers, and those would be pretty cool places to look for potential
I
collaboration.
mean, Israel prides itself on just cranking out IP.
Yeah, but they're a lot more open. Some of these other places, they're not really open. And you look at the biotech park in Dubai, which is phenomenal. It's a world-class facility, but there's a lot of obstacles to navigate, both going there and trying to come back.
Just spending the time.
But it's a very good point about bioincubator. We have tons of bioincubator in Massachusetts, but the business model in Europe, Israel, is completely different. It would be good to hear.
The business model for every incubator here is completely different from each other.
That's another story. No, I'm speaking about in general.
I mean, I'll tell you, this is a theme that you could maybe take right through all next year. It's pretty heavy.
And Susan, you should follow up on that email thread, and we should talk to that person and see where they are in terms of getting an investment.
That'd be interesting.
You've got funding, collaboration, clinical trials. I mean, it's a pretty deep topic.
Science.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some things cut across all categories of company sizes, like IP, but certainly the R&D collaborations, business development collaborations. There's a lot of untapped potential out there.
We might want to invite one of those people who got, the binational, I call it, which is basically run by Massachusetts Life Science. And they were basically, this was the second year. There was the first year last year, and this one the second year. Maybe we should try to see how this works. Because they put money from both, from the state and from the whatever country they come from. It would be nice to see how this is working. This is really being translated to a success. So.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I think Pete was a couple weeks ago, met with the folks from the Life Science Center. So they've been doing the Israel partnership for 2 or 3 years now, but now they've added, added 5
They
other
have
countries, 4 other countries.
Yeah, they have 4 different regions that they essentially can commingle funds with on joint development opportunities. So you find a company in Alsace and you find a company in Massachusetts, and they go in on a development project. The problem I sensed was finding companies and arranging those marriages in a very short amount of time. Really,
but I
they
think the
had
process is becoming better.
3 to 4 months to do that, and so the response from the Massachusetts side perhaps wasn't as strong as they would have liked. But it's the first year that they really went out with this program.
But I mean, that's integrated. We talked a little about, an example of it's just like a nightmare to try to partner with someone at Alsace, or so I'm saying going global can just, you're opening up a whole can of worms. Who owns the IP? Why, it's like, don't even think about going global, try to just do it, right here.
Just a tactical idea, we have to get INSERM involved in this.
INSERM transfer.
Well, I just think, in all those, and it's been noted, but I think there's one area, the regulatory issues, the protecting IP, choosing correct global partner. That's sort of all these tactical decisions that companies need to make, and that a lot of companies are certainly I would suggest are smaller, mid-sized companies are really sort of unprepared to make at this point. And so, I think that would be a very valuable area, sort of one series of events around those type of issues to familiarize these companies with those kind of issues. And we would, again, thinking about the foreign agencies, these are the sort of things that they tend to, be ready to offer up. I think we want to pull from our membership to help talk about these issues, but where possible, also have the foreign agencies come up with people. I have the Medicon Valley Alliance, one of our members, has sort of a standing proposal that we would like to have a group come over, if you can develop a forum around, just some of these issues, we would love to provide speakers, or sort of, give us a month's notice and we'll send them over. So those opportunities are there, and having a panel, that includes, let's say, the European perspective and that kind of insight, along with some local folks who've been through these issues. I think that's a pretty valuable forum. So there's sort of that logistical, those type of issues that form one series, and then some of the larger issues that we're talking about.
I like that idea of taking perspective from, other places, so it isn't just the perspective of companies and businesses in Massachusetts.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's also a good two-way translation of what people know. You're saying a lot of the foreign agencies are joining MassBio because they want to have this insight into the MassBio community and all that. And here you're saying, would you come and actually contribute content for our edification as well? And it would be a nice way to participate with us. You can have a great mix with just your membership that you have already, because you've got Asian, European, and it's a nice mix. So almost any topic that we've got up there, you've got representatives from any of your global partners. You already got a great series, you've got a great talk.
And the Swiss consulate, I'm sure you know, which is here basically down the road, are so active. And
They are very active.
Very active. I don't know if somebody, you guys spoke with them, do some mixed event, and they're bringing amazing speakers from Switzerland. They have many events. Some of them are not life science, but most of them are life science.
So do you think that this could be an entire year's worth of programming?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think the same way as you, when she said only had a year, I thought, well, you could go 12 months on this one and still not exhaust all the potential issues and dialogue.
Well, I mean, one thing I'd like to throw into that mix is if we do that, maybe we should have the other, because we have a number of topics from sort of this year's discussion, which we're pushing up into next year. So if we do the forums focused on globalization, mix in whatever leftover, I shouldn't call them leftovers, whatever we have still to do from this year's list in between, which will not necessarily be focused on global issues. Because at the end of the day, we have a number of very small companies here which might need to understand global issues, but at the same time, they might not care at the point they're at today. So I think it's important that if we do this through the year.
Yeah, so you could have the standalones be things that are more Massachusetts or local related.
If someone's in biotech pharmaceutical development, they're going to be touching international
Yeah,
issues
no, this
all
is
the
true.
time.
At the end of the day, you will end up there. But if you look at the list that we
Markets.
still have left, even from us, I mean, we basically from the DD group, we have all the meetings more or less mapped out. Yeah, and they're not really focused on global.
Well, the thing is.
But there's still issues that are important for us to
Yeah,
discuss.
absolutely. For small companies, whether you're looking for financing or a scientific partner, or just making sure you don't set up a dumb strategy that'll be shooting yourself in the foot when you try to do something in Europe. It's important to get an understanding. But I think the trick here is going to be, if we focus on globalization for 2 quarters with working group sessions and a series, we're going to, I think, inevitably get some topics that come out of that are raised by people who are attending or can't attend, and we'll have ample opportunities as we talk about this being a big issue, and it is. There'll be ample opportunities to develop working group meetings for years potentially that are following up on this. But if it hit the core issues that everybody needs to know, get some, especially if you can get some introductions and handshakes with folks from the European and Asian and Australian, whatever groups, and you get something started.
Well, that's actually a good point that you bring up there, audience. Is if we do, I mean, this year we did sort of starting companies, sort of doing something with the dream, which of course, if we let that filter through into this year, will go throughout, that's what they're going forward. And the same thing with globalization, not just do it this year, but actually have it ongoing with a.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So at the end of the day, there will be a mix through the year, right? There will be sort of a series of forums focused on whatever topic we're looking at, and focusing in that particular time, mixed in with meetings, which are follow-ups on what we've done before. I think that's going to work well.
I think that we are basically covered 2014.
Done.
Yeah. Really, because those are some big issues, and there are so many on it with it.
Yeah, I mean, you could have one event all to like big pharma and the global markets. You could get each one of those firms to come in and have a representative from India, from just that alone would be interesting. You know, the financing. There's just so many different topics that
Well, and again, you know, this, as the basis for these broader-based series, globalization is the perfect topic. And as Neil said, I've been trying to keep up with all of the ideas and topics that the working groups are coming up with and keeping that forums tracker in the Dropbox updated, but it's starting to look like the Manhattan phone book. They're coming up with incredible topics for standalones. And as we start talking about globalization, at every working group meeting, guaranteed someone's going to say, oh, how about this? It'll tie in very nicely. And so.
And some of them already have. We talked with HR specifically around an immigration reform piece, which they were considering for this fall. And, you know, as we talked about, as we said, well, you know, there's a potential that 2014 we'll be talking more specifically about globalization and issues in globalization. And so they are sort of thinking through how that might work. We actually talked with HBA, Healthcare Businesswomen's Association, about they were working on developing programming on sort of doing business cross-culturally, sort of the softer skills for staff who haven't worked in any kind of global environment. Like, what do you need to know? And
well, you took really, I was going to go into culture because, but that's going to be extremely different. I'm speaking about my own experience for a long time. But it is something to raise and see whether or not we can tackle it.
Cross-cultural business practices.
It's not only by, even the smallest is writing the email that your person that sits in Switzerland will not be offended the way that you would in the other way around. And as I said, that's my own personal experience, and it's very different.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, getting along with the Aussies is a lot easier than trying to get along with a new Japanese partner.
well, we just learned that Portugal takes like 4 weeks off.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we've been trying to work with people from Portugal, and
That's
they've
Europe.
been gone.
Europe
Portugal
takes-
specifically, the guy was like, talk to me in 5 weeks.
But France is the same.
August is cold.
That's a continent.
So yeah, how do you think about that when you're embarking on a team project?
I think it's
You just work it into your plan.
But that would be a fantastic forum of panelists each talking about, okay, this is what I went to Japan with, and this is the lesson I came out with, or things like that. It'd be a fantastic draw.
And I think if we want to generate a really lively discussion, we can pick number 2 there, global outsourcing cheaper labor and the impact it has on local and national level jobs. And I mean, I think that will draw, that will be a full crowd. And it will be interesting to see what kind of panelists, maybe speakers we can get involved to address.
I really don't care much for that kind of topic, but it's encouraging the wrong thing.
Yeah, it definitely becomes quite political.
People are doing it, so.
Oh, but I mean, what you could do is you can present how the choices everybody makes at the business level, personal level affect the community around them.
Well, I mean, you can also, I mean, you can sort of turn that around completely and say that by using less money to do some things global, we can actually grow the businesses and become even bigger here. So I mean, it's just such a political issue if you're pro or con.
Yeah, I mean,
And
that's
with
what
the-
they
at
would
the
have
end of
in
the
two
day-
sides,
From the standpoint of
explaining
the
the
big,
rationale.
for big companies, that's an easy topic to get into. For small companies, people who are starting companies, either coming out of big pharma or they're reading all about global outsourcing. They're starting a company on a shoestring and they think they're saving money by going
Yeah.
to
Right.
global outsourcing, and they're finding out that, oh, you mean those guys had to build a facility there to
Right.
get the work done
Yeah.
properly? It's,
Right.
it's not saving money at all for a startup.
Yeah, but that's a very good discussion.
Yeah, I mean, we can present, or we can present how this affects local businesses
Yeah.
who have to lay off people and then maybe the whole industry suffers in the end. I mean, it's a
You
tough
have to lay off
topic, but.
people and then your startup fails anyways.
That's-
Yeah,
This
I
has
mean, that's
nothing
part
to
of
do
the
with
initial
this.
discussion, the first forum, what does global, what are global issues? Different portions.
I mean,
of it.
that's
As they
just
affect-
one global issue, if you will. I mean, which, if you're gonna outsource for cheaper labor, and if you, as you say, Roger, if you end up being cheaper at the end of the day, that you're just wasting your money
Yeah,
and
and
time
you
doing
spend
it. Which of course,
less
but I
money
mean,
for
this
data
is
that
this
you
is
can
this is really
outsource.
the same issue as you see when you do. I mean, if you do make an iPhone, right? They design it in California, make it in China. You do your prototyping when you 15 minutes away from where you live. You can then do your manufacturing someplace else, and it's really the same principle here.
Sure.
As you're developing your drug, that's the prototyping. If you do that in China, you make it hard for yourself. But once it's done, if you manufacture it on the moon, doesn't matter, because it's a matter of setting an SOP to them, making sure that they actually deliver what you asked for. So I mean that. It's the same to me. It's the same in this industry as it's in any
Except
industry.
when you get in a situation where you got people who culturally don't think that highly about following
Quality.
an SOP, all that.
No, yes, exactly. No, that's, yeah, right, yes, exactly. Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, no, that's, yeah. You
It
got
was a
the-
good panel.
You got the bribery issue, say, well, not, do you have to bribe people in China, or do you get shot if you do? I mean, it's kind of, at this point, I think it's up in the air.
No, I think we have to.
Yes, where to bribe people and where not to.
One thing we have to remember that today, Chinese
That'd be valuable.
have more publication in peer review, top peer review journal than the United States. I don't know if you're aware of it.
No, I mean, it's.
What do you mean we care?
It could be.
I think we care a lot.
But I know an organization from another country, I should say, that actually was banned from publishing in at least one journal for 2 years because they hadn't really, they made up the data. So then it's easy to publish, right?
But there
in
is,
this country, one of the biggest one.
Yeah, no, that, yeah.
but it is one of the big questions in workforce development we're looking at in the 2020 report, is that a number of countries are now actively offering big incentives for even folks who go to school here. I mean, relocation, salaries to come back, and it's, I think, probably our biggest workforce challenge that we're trying to look at in the 2020 report is.
Oh, but China, before they were staying in this country, now they don't. And, that's why there is a problem with postdocs.
But it ties up all with outsourcing. If all the jobs are going to other countries, there will be the opportunity. So,
Sometimes, the companies are very specialized, so when you think about, are you outsourcing or are you just going to somebody who's got the technical speciality that you have? I mean, you don't necessarily go out to look purposely for a company overseas, but you go, say for example, if you're using contract manufacturing, you need a specialized manufacturing source. It could be that you may need to go to Germany or you need to go there, because that's the only facility that can deal with your product or something like that. But it's not a purposeful way to try to reduce costs.
The way that folks should be educated in how to do things is if you're gonna outsource it where the job will get done in the way that it needs to get done, not starting by saying, well, we have to go to another country and.
Because it's fashionable to move everything to India, yeah.
Well, we don't have our usual person who brings up sort of the patient community. There's always a question for global patient networks and how that's changing. So our next step is to meet with the working groups again later in the fall.
Yeah, later in the fall.
They've got a lot they're planning right now. And we promised them we'd get them some notes and meet with them in the fall to get globalization sort of socialized, and we'll probably invite all of you to a similar type of meeting like we had with the two groups coming together and fleshing out some ideas and figuring out which working groups should work with others and how these topics might flesh out.
We'll provide wine.
Are you gonna take a swing at these notes and try to create something?
Yeah, we'll work on combining some of this information.
In terms of other business, I want to suggest that we have a dress code for future meetings because my friend Chris is wearing shorts and I'm uncomfortable sitting next to him.
He's been trying to touch my legs.
Do you want to dress up or dress down?
I think trousers should be required.
You love my legs.
This is the
Or
first
next
time I
time,
see
you could have
Chris.
to sit next to Hill.
Chris always wears a suit and tie. I didn't think you had shorts.
Okay, moving
I
right
had lunch
along.
with Mark Levin, so I had to,
Oh, that's
I had to
right.
dress down.
Yeah.
He came out in shorts and I was like, bingo. Right out of my-
But I bet his shoes were more colorful than yours.
He did have more colorful shoes on.
I think, yeah, it depends on the organization. I had a meeting over at MIT a couple of weeks ago, and when it was really warm, and I think half the people, we were like 100 there, half of them wore shorts. I did it.
All right, any other items to discuss except besides needs? No? Thoughts on next meeting topics? We're looking at the next quarterly FAB meeting, 8 to 10 a.m. Thursday, November 14th. Of course, I'll get our notes together from this meeting, send them out, and send an invite and a reminder, as I usually do. And then we'll talk about, as Sarah mentioned, the next reception and that wonderful brainstorming event, try and come up with the same kind of list of topics
So I
we
was
did.
joking about,
Yes.
we have 4 for 2014, and that's a question whether we should look for, you know, should we dedicate it to 2014 for globalization, or should we start to think about another basic team? And I'm not sure. That's why I'm opening the discussion.
So Dahlia, one thing that you might build, if the globalization weren't a full year's theme, you could always also, which I think would tie in with it, is to have a theme of, you know, comparing and contrasting, you know, what's going on in other biotech. So it's not as far-flung as globalization, but it's aimed at sort of learning, you know, whether it's financing or startups or what have you.
Oh, you know, I think it's
So
something
that-
said there's
that
so
would
much,
be- that
so
would be
much
related.
there. Absolutely. So, I'm basically asking, you know, that's also globalization. I'm asking whether or not are we really full for 2014, or we should start to think about another.
I think it should be full, because we could do a whole nother panel on tech transfer worldwide.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's.
Yeah, and there's still nothing to stop the working groups from coming up with independent.
So, yeah, keep in mind that the broader series forums, we're doing 2 a month. So, you know, this could stretch to the entire year, again, with standalones in between.
I think one way at least to address that is if we could start now, figure out how many forums we can come up with.
That's
Right.
If we come up with 3, which are down, okay, then we have to have 2.
Yeah, if we get to January and we find out that everything's done by the end of February,
Right.
we better start thinking of something.
Exactly. So the,
How to believe that in.
Yeah. I think, but Valerie, I think it is one of those unique themes that there's no lack of content, you know, and value.
That's okay, I
Yeah.
only wanted to raise the.
Yeah, I just think I think it's unique.
Debbie, so I was going to ask, some of the working groups are flying off and are being very successful, and others are having a little bit harder time getting started. And I think from some of the feedback I've heard is that some of the working groups didn't understand they could have their own offshoot meeting just for their community. So I was wondering if going forward into 2014, maybe we say, you know, this is a good month for you to do a one-off, and kind of give them the opportunity to say, aha, that's when we're gonna do this other item that we've done. Give them a little help to do their individual thing, to reach out to the community. Some of the community groups like to be with themselves, they can be a little more chatty in those meetings, but I don't know what you guys think of that.
No, I think that if they don't know, they can have standalone meeting, that's obviously not good.
Yeah, if they were at the last planning session, they really ought to know that.
Yeah, they probably do now, but.
No, I think that's a good point, and we've sort of learned to be a little bit more prescriptive around timing. Like, look, we have a hole in the calendar for October. Can you guys drive towards something in that time frame? Does that work? And then they generally do sort of think a little harder about what topic is really top of mind and really ready to go. And it's a little bit of a balance with all of the groups.
It is, and you're right, and I think Roger mentioned this earlier. Some of these people are new to the whole process, to the whole concept, and they may not be comfortable reaching out. And so you reaching out to them to check in, or just, what's up, we have the pipeline, would be terrific in helping them.
Brought up, it's a good point. When you see a hole, because it's so easy to, I mean, if no one asks, it doesn't matter how active the groups are, right? If they don't hear any asks for meetings, it's like, okay, things might be going well. I'm just gonna not do anything. So I think,
Yeah, we're trying to be a little more obvious.
Right.
About where we do need to fill holes.
Because
I
I
mean,
think
we need to
all of
offer
the-
programming.
all of the
so.
groups can come up with it. It's just a, and I think it's good if you drive it, so to speak, right? We have a slow month here. Can you come up with something?
Just about all of them have long
Because-
lists of great topics, so.
Because
Yeah.
I think one, at least in my mind, one of the objectives for doing, having this FMB and whatnot, is to not have too many meetings on a similar topic in the same month.
Right.
And that really, I mean, I think I know that's it's all in the Dropbox there, but I think we don't
Yeah.
read the Dropbox
Well,
as well as we should.
yeah.
So I think
For example, I mean, and I can speak to this only because I'm sort of the staff person that talks with the marketing communications committee. They've been working on the October 8th event, and then the next thing they had nailed down was February 28th. And we said, those are great. What are you gonna do in December? For the marketing community, I mean, it could be smaller, it could be more focused, it could be more niche, but, one every 4 or 5 months.
Right. And the working groups are expected to collaborate, of course, on the broader based series forums, but to come up with at least 2 standalones per year. And looking at what they've come up with for topics, that should not be hard at all. But again, executing
So
the
those
process.
topics are already in the database?
They've been coming up with them, and I've been trying to update the tracker with what they've been coming up with at each meeting, at each phone call, each email.
I was just wondering about the theme of the different standalone. It's captured some.
I'm sorry.
The different theme, I was thinking about the standalone. Topics have been
Yes.
captured.
Yeah, anything they even suggest we put on the list, but then we try and rate. It's, in the Dropbox, it's the document called Forum Tracker, and we try and rate where it is in the process. So if it's just something they've thrown out there, it says something like brainstorm. But then if they've actually done anything, we'll kind of.
So move it up, if it actually has a date, there are categories of how complete they are in their planning. It's just a brainstorm, there's a column for all of that, and then when it finally gets a date, it's in the calendar, it gets moved up, and it's called the forum. So it's basically, it starts at the bottom, or as they come up with more things, I put it in there. And that's in the Dropbox. With every phone call, I have more things to add. They're great. It's been wonderful. What next? Right downstairs.
And the sun just came out.
It did, but no guarantees that we're gonna have it inside. Join us for cocktails and next year at Catalyst downstairs. And our member holiday party, our member-wide holiday party is December 5th.
They're not gonna let you in.
We want as much representation as possible. Do come.
Yeah, mark your calendars, this is our member-wide bash.
And it would also be just a terrific place to just have another brainstorming. A non-structured brainstorming nevertheless. We want to throw a great party.
That's true.
So anybody have anything else? Thank you for your time. This is wonderful.
We'll get notes out to you soon.
We will. can't do this without you.
Yeah. Keep in mind if you have any. That's what I was thinking today.
It'd be nice if they funded something other than already, and they funded some entrepreneurs.
Yeah, but they're getting good at it, so I really realized that he started himself. He did. Found it. 3 years before the product. I hate it. So that's got his CFO Kevin Gillis, and I was like, well, this is all the stuff I know. I know the farm, I know the, you know, the capital structure, I know the equity, I know the HR, I know the insurance, I know the accounting, you know, so that could be a great resource, you know, for helping support. So they have the Beyond Great, you know that? Over there, so it's basically resources that is Texas. Kevin Gillis is spends like 10%
Okay, he's definitely got some upside.
So he spent 7%.
Exactly, so you have to do
yeah,
something.
well, guiding them, you know, great, you know, beyond great, helping them get beyond where they are.
You have a daughter getting married,
You know, through them,
Sort of a inbred environment.